I lay on my bed that evening, poking at Velvet Remedy's Pip-Buck as the radio and my own played yet another reiteration of the tragedy of the day. I couldn't believe it. Velvet Remedy was gone. I couldn't understand. How could she leave? Why would she go? The door out of Stable 2 was closed and sealed. Only the Overmare knew the secrets to opening it, assuming it could even open. Which, obviously, it could. But why? Nobody really knew what was outside, if there was anything out there at all. Historical books suggested the world outside was blasted, lifeless, poisonous. That was, at least, the common and logical assumption. But a ghost story some pony told me at my first and only slumber party had given me horrible nightmares and still lurked in the shadows of my head. A tale of a pony who somehow got the stable door open and stepped outside, only to find out that there was no outside, just a great nothingness that whisked the pony away, devouring her soul so that she was nothingness too. Empirically, I knew that wasn't the case, but the mental image still haunted me. The two things I did understand was that Velvet Remedy had gotten me to remove her Pip-Buck so the Overmare couldn't track her with it, and that I was screwed. Being the smallest pony my age, and the last to get my cutie mark, did not facilitate building friendships with my peer ponies. Mother honestly didn't help either, nor did waking up screaming at my first slumber party, so I was used to being alone. But I'd never had enemies before. I'd been beneath the notice of the other ponies, but I'd never had one hate me. I really couldn't blame them either, even though it totally wasn't fair. They were upset and hurt and needed a scapegoat. The news hadn't mentioned me by name, just Velvet Remedy's custom-decorated Pip-Buck was found in the possession of a Pip-Buck technician pony. But with a whole two of us, it wasn't hard for every pony to figure out, even without the scene outside her room earlier. The Overmare was speaking on the radio. "We are all feeling this loss, but I want to remind every pony that Velvet Remedy chose to do this. She chose to leave her home, to abandon us, her family. She betrayed my trust and she betrayed yours, just as she betrayed the trust of the pony who she tricked into removing her Pip-Buck, ensuring we could not find her. I know many of you are angry or hurt. I urge you to direct that anger where it truly belongs." As thankful as I was for her words, it wasn't going to change the resentment that I would face every day, even if every pony kept it to themselves. It hung in the air like old smoke. I distracted myself with the errant Pip-Buck, taking note of an encrypted file. I had spotted it yesterday, figuring it was probably an unfinished new song. I didn't want to open it then, both out of respect for Velvet Remedy's privacy and a dislike of spoilers, but I guessed it didn't matter anymore. The song would never be played. Opening a pouch on my utility barding, I withdrew an access tool that would allow me to remove the encryption safely and easily. It was a sound file. I played it. "The override code for opening the door to Stable 2 is CMC3BFF. I shot up in surprise at what I had heard. Swiftly, I turned off the radio and played it again. I didn't recognize the voice. It was female, kind of sweet, and had a strange accent that didn't sound like anyone else in the stable. But now I knew how Velvet Remedy felt. I must have sat there for hours, contemplating what I should do, but finally, I made my choice. I was going to go outside after her. I was going to bring her back. I stood there, staring at the huge steel door that sealed Stable 2 away from the horrors, or nothingness, outside, and at the two guard ponies who blocked my way. I had my saddlebags packed with apples and necessities, even a big book of arcane sciences for something to read. I had 2 canteens around my neck. I was ready to go, but the Overmare was making sure there were no follow-up acts. Insistence and glowering looks weren't getting me anywhere. My horn was glowing, but they stood their ground, unimpressed. They weren't going to let me anywhere near the control panel. "Hey, aren't you the filly who let our Velvet get lost outside anyway?" one of the guards inquired daringly, taking a bullying step forward. The other guard looked away in disgust. I'm not sure if he was disgusted at me, or if he felt like the overmare seemed to about ponies wanting to take it out on me. I was kinda hoping it was the former, considering what I was about to do to them. Thud! The metal footlocker above them dropped onto their heads, knocking both out cold. Earth ponies, they never see that levitating something up behind you trick coming. I was at the controls, entering the passcode from Velvet Remedy's Pip-Buck when the Overmare's voice boomed through nearby speakers. Stop! I ordered you to stop this instant! Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. Guards! I want every guard pony and stable 2 door. Stop that filly! Oh crap. My hooves flew up to the main switch for the door, and I prayed to Celestia that the code worked. Then, with all my strength, I threw the switch. A loud clanging filled the air, followed by a hissing of steam and a great rumble that shook the room. As I watched, the massive bolt that held the door from Stable 2 shut slid back. A huge hinge arm swung down, attaching itself to the door, and with a teeth-hurting squeal, pulled the massive steel door out and away. Randomly, I found myself thinking in my mother's voice, Stable 2's barn door doesn't swing that way. The door to Stable 2 wasn't supposed to swing at all. Even though I threw the switch, I was stunned to see it actually open. You don't have to do this. Little Pip, isn't it? The Overmare's voice kicked me out of my stupor. I could hear the hooves of galloping guards drawing near. I took a step towards the door. Don't worry, I'll bring her back. No, you won't. If you leave here, you'll never be let back in. For a moment, the unfairness stung. The Overmare was willing to send out a search party to bring Velvet Remedy back, but then Velvet was special, and I was not. Part of me wanted to turn back right there, crawl back to my room and my dreary but safe life. Drawing myself up, I stepped out the door. With a final hiss and clang, the steel door of Stable 2 closed irrevocably behind me. I don't know what I expected to find just beyond the door, but it certainly wasn't this long, dark hallway that smelled of rotting timbers and sepulchre air. I was no longer in the stable, but I wasn't outside it yet, either. I was in limbo. I turned on my Pip-Buck's light, and recoiled with a gasp at the skeletons of long-dead ponies which littered the hall. The outside of the stable door was marred from where ponies had slammed on it until their hooves cracked and shattered, trying to get in. Moving forward quickly, I discovered that the hallway opened into an old room with stairs leading up to a horizontal door with a shattered lock. The entrance from the outside world into Stable 2 had been cleverly disguised as the door to a humble apple cellar, and by disguised, I meant that the person who built it had been building an apple cellar. Taking a deep breath, I trotted up the stairs, swung open the cellar door, and stepped outside. Footnote: Level up. New perk. Cherchez la filly. 10% damage to the same sex and unique dialogue options with certain ponies.